Hi, this is Ed, and I'm in San Diego, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show, a business unit of globalbusinessnews.net. This program is going out live around the world, but very few people will be watching this live. There'll be many people in many countries
See you guys.
who will be watching the streamed free access version from YouTube and from globalbusinessnews.net. So our special guest today is Sandra Corona, who's in Houston. She departed Houston for Saudi a long time ago and has returned in the past couple of years and has settled in. But it wasn't easy at first. And we're going to talk about all of that. This program is not to throw arrows or darts at companies or at past management practices. It is a story for educational purposes so that others who are thinking about an expatriate assignment, they need to learn some things about this. There's plenty of things that have already been written, but not widely distributed. And there's also people who I have met along the way through the TV, the global meeting room, as I call it. This is a digital conference. And there's never a cost to attend. We make our money through memberships, sponsorships, advertising. The messaging that we're going to be talking about today has nothing to do with assigning blame. It has everything to do with mental health. The mental health of the expat, more so the accompanying people, whether it's a spouse or partner, and family. The issue is, how much care does a company provide? How much care should a company provide so that the employee on assignment is costing the company a lot of money and time and possibly prestige and market conditions? How are they being prepared for the expatriate assignment? There are some companies, not just American, but others, who take great care in employee preparation, employee and family preparation before they set foot into the new place. Why? Because they're smart. They know people are going to be upset. They're going to be out of sorts. They're not going to have friends. They're not going to know how or know who and what to do. Now, a lot of people react well and they can deal with it and they find other expats. Here is Sandra Corona with a real life experience and quote unquote recovery into a state of normalcy. Welcome, Sandra Corona.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I would like to, first of all, say how wonderful it is to be here with you after 2 years of being away from LinkedIn and your talk show. For anybody that is watching, I have found this to be an amazing space where you can share your experiences, where you can share ideas and connection. That is probably one of the most important parts, and that's why we're here, right? Because we want to feel connected to something, be a part of something important. And I feel very privileged to be a part of something so important as your talk show is. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, the global meeting room, as I affectionately call this,
Yeah.
it came out of when I started the Global TV Talk Show in
Mm.
March of 2020. when COVID crashed into my 30-year successful business of meetings and events.
Yeah.
I did not use TV. I had been doing radio, in other words, audio, for about 10 years and still do it because all of the talk shows, the TV recordings have an audio component. And now with AI, they have a text. So some people publish books. I publish this, and I get all the derivatives, the video, the audio, the words, and make it available free to anybody. We'll have plenty of support from advertising and sponsors and memberships because what I'm teaching by just doing this show, and of course others, about how to be comfortable in front of this light, this camera. It's your friend
Mhm.
if you understand it. If you don't understand it, it'll be your worst enemy and a nightmare. You might as well learn about it. By watching what we're doing and how we're talking about issues, you'll see it's human. It's not AI, but AI can help interpret and promote and elongate the message because it's serious business. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about why companies don't help expats and the accompanying people, spouse, partner, kids, to figure out how to behave in a new country, to figure out how to make friends. It sounds so primary, but just think of yourself going into a foreign place and you don't know who and you don't know how and you don't know essentially what, but here you are. And a lot of people recoil from that. And it takes a long time for them to recover and become human. In other words, become themselves. And it's through interactions. The easiest thing, and we're going to hear now from Sandra, not me, is team up with other expats because everybody's been going through the same thing. And that's going to be the primary avenue of your lifestyle on assignment. You're not going to, I'm careful here, you're not going to make friends quickly with the locals. They look at you, they see you're different, and they go on their way. Sandra, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So let me put this in what I believe would help. I want to have a conversation today. You and I, we would like to have a conversation, an honest conversation of what it is to be an expat. There is responsibilities. There is a hat that you put on going to a different country. And something that I wanted to talk about is that this conversation that we're going to have with you today, with all the experts out there, is that advocating for mental health care, as what Ed has been talking about, is important. And most companies want to help, they just don't have the guidance and the information to do so. And this is advocating for expats. This is companies coming to say, let me listen a little bit more. Let's see what we can do, work together. So talking about, would you like to start about the locals versus, the idea of what you're coming to do as an expat, or where would you like us to start at?
From day one.
From day one?
And then quickly go to day end
Sure.
and
Okay.
say, okay, what was it that was a bridge over troubled waters, and
Mm,
they cross over that bridge one day, and
mm.
you had a routine,
This
whereas
is,
you didn't
yeah,
have a routine before.
it's funny because it sounds like, tell me about your curriculum, right? Tell me about your experience kind of interview, but it's not. So, talking about since the beginning, I'm going to tell you what I learned. I realized that much of the conversation and preparation towards an expatriation comes from people that are told from a friend, from another global mobility partner, or from another HR, international HR person. And none of them have experienced fully what it is to be an expat. There is no understanding of addressing uncertainty, uh, no friends, social events, who to contact, who to reach out, where, who to talk to, and so on and so on. So, fortunately, in my case, I was already a global mobility expert, and I managed our expatriation because it was new, not because they didn't know to. So let's put a space there. Information is power. Reading is power. And that is what I did. So when you're beginning an expatriation, read, be informed, ask questions, look out in Facebook if there's groups created for that location in that country. And I didn't do that. I did it based on what I knew. I thought, oh, this is amazing. You know, the expats in this country get all this and this. And so you go with this honeymoon idea of how amazing it is to move to this country and how much money you're going to make versus, oh, once a honeymoon is over, it's like you turn around and you're like, I don't know anybody. I don't know the language. I don't know the traditions. I don't know where to go, who to talk to, food. Incredibly, let's remember something. Um, Food brings people together. And that is one of the most important things depending on culture, right? Because we have to, I did believe how important it was to talk about culture, but it is like, it's something that I learned, it's something that I study, I'm certified, but it doesn't make sense until you actually think through it. And that is something that started to happen, right? You're excited, you're going, you don't get informed because you think you got this, you're an open-minded person. The honeymoon is over, you realize you're not that open-minded. You're starting to question your values, your beliefs, your traditions. You're thinking that you have to be stripped of all of that so that you can have a sense of belonging. You don't want to have a sense of belonging. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to have the sense because it's not the same to feel that you are a part of something than to have the sense of belonging. There's a difference. There's a huge difference in that. Uh, so what you want is to have a place on the table like everybody else. You want to be able to go to a restaurant and be able to order something. You want to turn around and have a conversation with the person on the next table, right? Or say hi. You want to feel that. And the truth is that nobody prepares you for that. And this is something why I created or I wrote about expedology. I started to realize, what am I missing here? Why don't I feel connected to this country? What is happening to me that when I go out, people are just looking at me? You know, they know I'm not from this country. They see the way I dress, and but nobody talks to me. Nobody's curious about me. And so I started to realize that it was a matter of me opening up. So you have to go to the mountain, right? What is that phrase it when Muhammad doesn't, when the mountain doesn't, no, when Muhammad doesn't go to the mountain comes to Muhammad, right? Something like that. And so you have to do that. You have to start opening up. First of all, you have to realize that the country, the culture, the people are not asking you to give up your values, your beliefs, your traditions, nothing. You can still continue to be that person. All you have to do is just be a little bit curious. What happens after this time? What happens? Why are the stores closed after this time? Why do I have to not go out after this time? And what happens if I speak up? And what happens to this and that responsibilities? You have to understand where you're going and what is going on. So, curiosity, I think the first thing is be curious. Look it up. Look up the history of the country. Approach people and just say hi. You know, hi, I noticed your blouse. I like it. Can you tell me where you bought it? Now, that is when you're having a conversation in a country where English is also something that is, you know, people have a conversation, can have a conversation with you in English. When you can't, this is where I think the company has a role to play to say, okay, when you're going to choose an expat, a company that is aware of what an expatriation is, that they come to the expat, they approach the employee that they want to have as part of an assignment, say, we have selected you and your assignment is ready to begin in a year from now. This is what's going to happen. This is where you're going. I don't know, French is a language. Prepare your children, prepare yourself, prepare your spouse if you have one. Um, get embedded into the culture, the ideas, the community. This is the spaces that we have for you. We have set up a buddy for you that you can start talking with that is part of the company that is in the same location that you are going to be at. Have conversations with them. Now, this sounds very simple. These are easy instructions, but I think what would benefit an expat is to have a coach. I can't believe how important a coach is because a coach helps you frame things that you thought that they were because you go into this mentality of what you think things are going to be. And when the coach tells you, let's bring you back from that. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't you tell me what is your expectations? Why don't you tell me what is that people have told you? Or are you part of a previous expatriation? What was your experience? So sometimes we bring old habits and old experiences into new ones, and they don't let you get past the newer experiences, the new things that can happen, the great, amazing things that you can see and wonder and question and be curious, right? So, in my perspective, that gap that can be filled between a company and a global mobility partner is to understand that people are not difficult, expats are not difficult. We are just trying to handle uncertainty the best way possible. And the best way to do it is to sit down with the person, follow up with the person a year, like from the moment that you leave to a year from now, and still talk with that person, follow up. People want to feel that they're still connected, and that doesn't happen.
So let me jump in.
Yes.
Thank you for that commentary and that perspective. Let's talk about the coaching idea.
Mm-hmm.
That would be remote, right? Zoom rather than in person. Is that correct?
Well, if the company is a big company, you would usually have the local support, right? Once you, as a global mobility partner, send the person over, you can put them in contact with the local global mobility from that side. Or you can continue to be that person because now there's trust. Let's not forget that. And I think you've made a good point now that I think about it. There is trust and communication and connection that has been built from the beginning. And if the support comes from the same person, yes, I guess if there's connection and communication, absolutely the connection remains remote. But if the expat is comfortable and they say, you know what, don't worry about it, I can talk with the remote global mobility partner, then okay, perfect. It's a decision that has to be personal.
So let's talk about relationships.
Mhm.
And you could redirect me if it gets uncomfortable or not appropriate. Just tell me. So, spouse relationship,
Mhm.
spouse partner, let's just call it spouse for simplicity purpose. Um, you have the employee has responsibilities, they know what they are. There's going to be a new set of rules, new people around them. So the employee who is the transferee has their own stuff they got to deal with. And then
Yeah.
there's the spouse. And the spouse is going to be pissed off. They may not say it at first, but it's certainly going to come through in behavior or lack of comfort or whatever, and anger. And it could get pretty nasty behind the scenes. For instance, long time personal relationship, marriage, yeah, long time. And then something happens to the other person, let's just say the spouse, and they lost their identity, their workplace identity, their career identity, and it's all because of me and my being sent on assignment. Spouse is going to have daggers, mental daggers, for sure, and maybe worse, but it's going to be spiteful. It's going to be anger. It's going to be disappointment. It's going to be fighting little things that didn't matter before and now gigantic issues. And it's all because of the partner, spouse, being, they don't know who they are anymore. They don't like it. They don't know who, they don't know what, they don't know why, but here they are. How can the transferee perform well under those circumstances? And what role does a coach enter into it? And then what do you divulge and what do you not divulge? Coach is already going to know what's going on because it's really simple to observe people. And they're going to report back. And so there's an added layer of difficulty and stress. And that's not going to go away, is it?
No, it's not. But
So it's how to deal with it. That's the issue now. Then I know it's difficult, but
no.
let's just say, and so I have just a little bit of an aside here why I brought that up.
Mhm.
I've been developing a relationship with a Dublin-based expert in negotiation and um, personality. And he and I did a session. that had to do with dealing with difficult people, negotiating with difficult people, or people who hate you, or people you don't like anyway, but you got to negotiate something with them. Sort of reminds me of what's going on in the world right now. But
Mm.
so Joseph brought up the ancient bridge concept and getting off the bridge. The bridge is over troubled waters. All right. And if you jump off the bridge, you go into an abyss and you might get eaten up by the alligators. You might survive, but more likely you're going to get dead, damaged. So, what's the exit ramp to tone down the rhetoric and the danger? And what's the escape route? Getting off
Okay.
the bridge. So, the coach, if they're the right coach, and let's assume that they're well trained and they're mature people, and they have a communication spirit of being like a really smart big sister, a big brother. And they're going to say, hey, I see something. I have to tell you that I see you're heading for a fall and you're not there yet, but you can go down this road, that attitude. You're going to be in a pile of stuff that you don't want to be in. And so let's talk about preparing, understanding and preparing yourself to deal with stress. And then that's an exit ramp off the precipice of danger. So,
Hmm.
these are big words and all that, but it all has to do with spouse relationships under stress, survival, not flourishing, stepping back from immediate hatred and pointing fingers. Look what you've done to my life. Now that is ugly, but that happens. And nobody wanted to talk about it for years. And then you come along. You're not the first person to have a tell all, and you're not telling all. You're just talking about how you're dealing with things, how you've survived, and how you've understood your own growth, like in that uh, LinkedIn post that you did recently about understanding that you're a different person because of the expat experience and your own dealing with things. And you like how that is, but now you've repatriated back and you think of things how they were, and you come back and they're not. They're different because people are different. And a lot of people don't want to hear about your experiences. They have their own
Yes.
life. Anyway, I'm talking too much, Sandra. So,
Now I'm writing everything down because that post is a post made to be very, you know, this is how it was, this is how I handled it, and that's it. It's a list of things, very brief things, but I didn't go into details. Today with you, I'm going to talk about the difficult conversations that don't happen, the difficult things that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody wants to hear a story of how the hero made it. That's what this post is. But they don't want to hear what happens. They don't want to hear the struggles. They don't want to hear the suffering. They don't want to hear how hard it was. Nobody wants to hear a complainer. Everybody wants to hear, but yeah, but how did you do it? The end game. That's the word. So if you think about it, how conversations start for many people is like, what is it here for me? What can you do for me to know that you are the right person for this assignment. What do I mean with this? Let's start off with how you're chosen to be an expat. You get a visa, and that visa is very clear. That's already the first sign of what is your future going to look like for you and your partner. I would like to reframe the part of the spouse into a partner. I think this is very important. That visa is going to let your partner know whether they're going to be able to work or not. That's it. This is the part where it's a deep sigh because I'm thinking, oh gosh, I wish somebody would have told me. I knew I wasn't going to be able to work. I knew that beforehand. There was some hope in the back of my mind where who I was and the things that I did were going to mean something to somebody, and I would eventually come in and make a change, a difference. And, I would come in and save the day for a company that was, still learning about global mobility and how to bring people in. I thought I was going to be and do so many things. And that's not a bad thing. The thing is that you go into the expectation that there's something for you to do, and there is. What I did was I started with a cooking channel on Facebook, and it's still there. Funny, it's still there because I wanted to do something. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I think I skipped a little bit. Talking about the partnership, I think I want to go back to that. So I apologize. I'm taking a step back here. As a couple, once you realize that you won't be able to work, you have to sit down and have that. There's no going back. Whatever kind of professional that you want to talk to, it's knowing that life as you different home. And this is about how help you succeed country where we're going to. Because now that's my role. That's me telling you, you know what? I've come to terms with the fact in our case, as we said, this is make money. That's the truth. That's it. That was our three things. Well, skip the subjects that happen after. Okay, when you say that we're going to make money, what does that mean? How many vacations have? We're going to have vacations. What's going to happen? So you pros and the cons of going to an assignment. That's this. You have to be able to sit down and dedicate the discussions. But one of the things that helped Rodrigo and I was to say, look, we're moving to a country where we don't know anybody. Okay. It's only you and I. It's us together. So we might fight today and we might want to scream and say all these things. But in 5 minutes and 10 minutes, we're going to turn around and say, would you like a coffee? What would you like to have for breakfast? Because it's the truth. You have to work together to understand that I'm not going to leave you. You're not going to leave me. We're in this together. We agreed and we understand the circumstances that we're in. Let's work together. You're not ignoring your discussions. You're not ignoring what's going on. You're just simply understanding that you are in a partnership. That's number one. Number two, you talked about the pointing fingers, the hate, the constant fighting. That when you have set the expectations of what you're going to do, what are the resources, how are you going to support your partner? Because most of the times people move because the male partner is the one that is moving, right? And the female partner is the one that is following. Okay. So you understand that there has to eventually be a support to say, look, I'm working. I go from 7 o'clock in the morning and I come back until 5 or 8 o'clock at night. I want to support you. I want to support your dreams. What would you like to do? And that is where my husband and I one day going to get a little bit personal. But one day, I realized that there were things that I was missing, trying to understand, going back into my conversations with the expats that I would manage. I said, why do I feel that I could have done more and I couldn't do more? And then I thought, oh, maybe I need to read books about leadership. I couldn't find the answers. I would just, read and then just leave it to the side and everything else. Suddenly I just realized it's not about leadership. I'm not missing leadership skills. There's connection that I'm missing here. So I started crying because I thought, okay, now how do I do this? And my husband turns around and he's like, why are you crying? Because I don't know what to do. I need this course. I looked it up and this and that, and I don't know what to do because you're not working. So there is nothing that you can say, oh, I'm just going to pay for the course and I'm just going to take it. No, it's like now you're depending. You have to stretch out the hand. A lot of women express this is the funny thing. In the breakfast that I would have with the ladies is like, I find it hard to stretch out my hand and say, can I have some money to spend? Because a lot of them would work. So that's the point where you realize that now you have to tell the person what is your goal, your objectives, and say, this is the purpose. This is for me to improve myself so that I can be a better global mobility partner. And my husband said, okay, what is that you need? And I told him. He's like, how much does it cost? I told him. He's like, okay, let's do this. You realize that if you have an honest conversation, you can actually work together and to do things. There's going to be support from your partner. But a lot of people are not used to talking because, again, you're used to working, so you have your money and you just do things. But now it's about working together. So that's one. And the pointing fingers is no longer needed because now you've realized that your partner is willing to listen when you're willing to talk, right? Because what happens in a fight, the voices start racing because you're not being heard. And so you're trying to have a match here about who can scream the loudest because you're not listening to me. That's really the problem. So in order to avoid those situations, just sit down and say, look, this is what I researched. This is what I want to continue doing. This is what I feel I need to do. Because the end game, again, and it's always about the end game is for me to go back to the United States or look for a job overseas. Because being in the country, in a foreign country, does not mean that you cannot go and look up for remote jobs. Thank goodness for that, right? For a remote job now and be able to work from wherever you are. So that kind of improves the communication to say support. Then the purpose. right? Remember, staging the purpose of what you want to achieve is important. I said since the very beginning. And as the right coach, you really have to have an expatriation or expatriations under your belt to understand that it's not about love. It's not about you questioning whether you married the right person. It's about how conversations need to happen. Are you struggling with feeling that your values are not there? Are you struggling to feel valued as a person? Are you starting to feel that there is no purpose? So on and so on and so on. So you said it right. If the coach is the right coach with the right information, with the right certifications, with at least 2 to 3 expatriations under their belt, you're going to be highly more successful in guiding expats in what to expect before the expatriation happens in the pre-departure, on how to manage them, how to work through the process, and then what happens afterwards.
Let me jump in and ask a question that is intended to um, break the mood a little bit, number one, but number two, give information about uh, a potential policy decision that can be driven to help change things from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Company, I'm going to say should not allow an expatriate transfer to occur until the target employee for that expatriate assignment works remotely from the States, let's just say the States, with counterparts that they're going to have in Saudi Arabia once they get there, so that they are familiar with each other and they'll learn about how people do things on a day in, day out basis just from working together remotely. And the transferee to be is introduced personally, work-wise, methodology about how things are done over there before they even leave town. And that's done for a period of time on purpose to acculturate, to get them ready for something different. And the family, the spouse, partner, gets to see what's going on and learns from that. Now, all of that is to reduce the unfamiliar to more familiar and get ready for change. What do you think of that idea? It sounds like a no-brainer to me.
It sounds like a no-brainer for the expat that's going to be working. It sounds great. I mean, that is, if you think about it, in terms of how for some expats might sound logical, for an L1 visa person, that is part of the requirement. You have to be working first remotely before you make the switch, because they have to make sure that you understand the culture before you move. That is absolutely right. Now, in practicality, it only benefits the worker, the expat, not the family, not the spouse, not the children. One of the things that I loved about the last company that I was at is that they would offer a travel, reconnaissance travel for the family to go and experience and see the country for themselves. And it was a week That's a lot. If you think about it, for every expat that was going to this company overseas, they would offer each expat a 1 week travel to this country so that they can make an informed decision. Because I can look really good in paper as a worker, but when I move there, do I actually have the emotional ability to handle expat life, meaning I have to produce expectations of family and my children, right? Seeing dad in America to get home at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the evening versus overseas where you have to be proving yourself. Let's not forget that you have to prove yourself. And some people don't switch out of that and they continue to proving themselves for the duration of the whole assignment, which makes the family struggle. So if we think about what is the impact that the company is looking to do, and most of them do say this, is I take care of the expat, you expat, that's on you to take care of your family. And that's it. That's their role, that's the responsibility, and you cannot blame them for that. So I think that if you have the responsibility to tell the expat, we're going to ask you to work remotely, like you say, for 1 year before you move there, we are going to give now your family the opportunity to travel for 3 days if you want to. Don't give a week if you don't want to. 3 days. You're going to experience a culture. We're going to take you on a trip, a reconnaissance trip. We're going to take you on a 1 day where you get to be oh, sorry, my husband. Sorry about that. You're going to have the opportunity to be a tourist, right? You're going to have a camel ride. You're going to, I don't know, get to see the Louvre or whatever, right? And then you're going to make an informed decision because there we're going to take you to a restaurant and we're going to teach you, how to order water, just one word. And people start feeling like, oh, this felt great. I can do this. I can do this. This is the key word. And then you come back and you ask the family, okay, so how was it? Tell me, how did you feel? What did you experience? And remember, love happens when you are shaken and you feel like, oh my God, this was amazing, you know, because even though you might be going to some of the most amazing countries in the world, eventually the honeymoon, that emotion leaves and the truth kicks in. So I do agree with that, but let's not forget that the expat now has to handle their family, and we could benefit from helping the families as well.
All right, thank you very much. So I really appreciate you doing this. We've been doing it about 35, 40 minutes now. We could go another 10 minutes if you want,
I
or
would
we,
love to.
good. Okay. So um, I just want to inform you that about 10, 15 minutes ago, during when you were talking about some experiences, your voice did not transmit.
Hmm.
Okay, so it may be that the system recorded the words, and I will look at that and share that information with you. But I didn't want to interrupt because I could see it was real time thinking and expressing yourself, and I was hoping the sound would come in. But then it came in, and it's fine now, and has been for several minutes.
Okay.
And I think that we probably didn't miss anything, but perhaps when you see the replay, uh, you can write down some thoughts if you want that could
Okay.
fill in, and then I could publish those under an addendum. But
Oh yeah,
I didn't want to break up the mood or the progress while hoping the sound would come back, and it did.
absolutely. Okay, no problem, Ed. Do you want to ask the question again? I can be more brief,
I can't
or
think of it right now, but
okay.
I do want to go to your post
Hmm.
and if I could find it quickly, it would be great. Uh, okay, where you say going down your page, home. I'm going to read this. Home is home. What's there not to be excited about? It's about the repatriation back to Houston. Fast forward a couple of years, and as an expat with every repatriation I lived through, I silently would say, ah, yes, I get it now. And then you go on, nobody tells you that. Sometimes the place you became your truest self isn't the place where you were born. Abroad, you grow in ways you didn't plan. You find community in neighbors, meaning new neighbors. You become brave without realizing you're becoming brave, or that you weren't brave, but you're realizing what brave means, I guess. And you say your world expands, and so do you. And then you come back home, quote unquote, and suddenly people feel familiar, but you feel different. Conversations don't hit the same. Relationships are different. They shift. They shifted. People are different. You're different. You add on, you miss the version of yourself that felt more alive somewhere else, meaning when you're an expat and you were settled into that expat life. And now you're back, you're repatriated back in, and you have a life that you've been living, and you come back into what you once did or once you think you did. And so there's the disconnect. And so you said it's been 2 years. So
Yes.
family issues and neighborhood feeling, American everyday life is totally different. And uh, are you still in the Woodlands?
No,
So you moved
no.
on.
Yes. Hmm.
Now that's part of that repatriation, then, isn't it?
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
Correct. Um, so oh wow, this is really again, I didn't think it was going to get to the feeling, right? To getting honest. This is an honest conversation. When you leave, you're connected, right? You're like, you want to continue. I don't know if for male or females, sometimes they want to have the same connection, meaning some of them call their parents every day or weekly or so on and so on. And then you realize that it's not always possible. Um, that you miss your friends, you miss going out, you miss having fun, you miss, I'm sorry, the language, because you even miss that. You miss the traditions, you miss so much. But then you start slowly taking in the new culture. And then you travel somewhere else and you're like, oh, I like this, right? You start thinking, this is amazing. Oh, I like this. Oh, let me change this because I liked what I saw from here. So let me switch this old habit, this old thing that I have for the new. Then you start shifting, you start changing, you start thinking in different ways, you start talking different, you start realizing that you no longer need to feel small because this is something that happens. Now you can be this happy, bombacious person. You can now be more yourself, and you can reinvent yourself or finally be the person that you always wanted to be. You no longer need to hide this personality. You can be you. And when you realize all of this, and this is the part where I say you feel more alive in certain places other than just home. And then you come back and you're like, when you have a conversation about Japan, oh, I went to Japan, and people start looking at you like, oh, there she goes again with her conversations about traveling to a country. What is she going to show off again? And it's not that. You're just having a conversation, about Japan. And funny thing is that a couple of months ago, you could have the same conversation with your group of friends, and nobody would see it as a show off. But it was oh, tell me, where did you go? Oh, did you see this? Did you eat that? Did you go to this temple? That was the conversations that you would have. And now it feels like you need to take a step back, be quiet again, so that nobody feels bad. I mean, it is a reality. This is something that I was telling you, that this conversation for me today is about the things that you do not discuss, that nobody wants to hear. And the truth is, you start wondering, so do I have to be the small person to fit in a place where this is what I used to do? This is the familiarity that you're talking about, but it doesn't feel the same anymore. And then the guilt kicks in because you're thinking, oh my God, I probably need to stop saying when I was in Spain, when I was in Qatar, when I was in Germany. Well, maybe it's not about not discussing it, but rather just paying attention to the conversation and just say, well, this is what I experienced. This is what I saw in my professional point of view. This is what I hear. Here's what I recommend about this, and so on and so on. So I know it still sounds like the same thing as becoming small so that other people don't feel comfortable in the conversation, but it's more about they already know where I was. They already know where I come from. So there's no need for me to be like, oh, when I was in Russia, one of the traditions was to, I don't know, sit down and discuss with your elders about things that you want. It's a nice experience, but now you're here, and let's talk about how your old experiences, your good experiences, can transfer into the things that you can help others learn from, because nobody wants to hear that. Unfortunately, that's what I'm trying to say. No, not everybody wants to hear that. So it becomes a finding a group of expats incredibly so that you can start the transition. And that's what I did.
So you've grown,
I
and
have.
a lot of people grow, but not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when you step outside of who you were and what you did and lifestyle, and then you went overseas, and then you had to learn all new things because you were tested, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and rather than get pissed off or feel bad or stupid or out of place, say, come on, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to try to understand more. And someday it just clicked, and then you were more comfortable in the new situation. So now time goes by and you're living your life, and maturity is a fancy word, but that's what happens. And then it's like you get in the time warp machine and you go back. and and then so for whatever the reason, and I don't need to know details, the Woodlands. There's nothing wrong with the Woodlands. It's very nice. I happen to know something about it. But you moved to someplace else, which
Mhm.
fit better, felt better, and would enable you to move on. And some of the old relationships that you had, and I know that from my own experiences, they don't fit anymore. There's
Mhm.
not bad. It's just that, well, I'm doing something else now. I have other things I have to think about. So you move on. And it's growth and development. It's like being promoted in a job within a company, being promoted into a higher level of responsibility. Somebody gave you a chance and you had to rise to the occasion and you worked hard to achieve in that person's eyes. And all of a sudden you got $100,000 more in salary and more power, and you're asked to go on a speaking tour to represent a corporate interest. Whereas months or a couple of years ago, they never would have asked you and you never would have been in that position. But you've risen to that occasion, you've used the opportunity, and you come out on the other side. And then you step back and say, whoa, I got a new world I'm living in now. Something like that.
Correct. No, yeah, you're right. This is what yes, moving from the woodlands is you leave people behind and everything else. But this is what I've learned. I've learned to make new friends. I no longer worry about what people are going to think about me. I just think about the moment. I'm having a great conversation. I'm meeting a new stranger. Well, I'm meeting a new person because they're no longer strangers the moment that you talk to them. But you also learn a very honest, harsh truth. On your way up, you're going to lose friends, very good friends, because of the new person that you are, because you've changed emotionally, uh, the way you behave, the way you talk, the way you move, even that changes. And the interests are different. You have now new goals, you have now new ideas. And what was is no longer, it's no longer. That's it. So some people might find this comfort in the new person that you are, and you might lose friends along the way. But this is part of growth. This is part of making new connections. And if these people are so important to you, then you're still going to find a way to reconnect with them and do new things with them and create new memories, because that's very important also. Maybe it's time to create new memories, new things, new traditions, everything. But there's also the ones that have stayed behind while you were growing overseas. Some of them stayed behind, and you have to be okay with that.
Sandra Corona, thank you for your time and your life story of segments. There's
Thank you.
so much more, I'm sure. And I want you to think about coming back and going further, different. Uh, and maybe the next show we'll have another expat who has gone through some changes, of course. Uh, and that could add depth and value. I really appreciate you. And I feel blessed to have you on the program and have your experiences divulged and trusting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. It was a pleasure, and likewise, I really feel this was very interesting today. Thank you, Ed.
So I'll do a little bit of editing. I'm not
Mm.
going to touch the section that the sound may have disappeared for a while, and I'll
Okay.
check out the transcript, see whether
Okay.
they picked it up, because it's AI and maybe they picked it up. I don't know. But
Okay.
I'll find out and I'll share that info with you.
Sounds good. And then I can write down for whatever you can add
Yeah,
in.
whatever.
Perfect.
Right now, it's like, doop, I have no idea because I got into the moment of what we were talking about.
I
And
loved it.
I think you uh, told a beautiful story about yourself.
You Ed. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I am always here for whatever you need. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all. I welcome your feedback out there. Reach me directly. Here's the email: editor, global business news at gmail.com. Your feedback counts. Sandra would welcome that too. Thank you.
Thank you.